Hello, YouTube. It's Brother Gerald, YouTube philosopher. And I'm here to basically kind of create a controversial challenge to BGS Ibmore. He has a channel, and I'm going to give you guys a link to it because this is a very bright and intelligent man. But he's coming at a certain point. I mean, don't get me wrong in what I'm saying here. And I'm not trying to be, on one hand, complimentary and then saying, no, you're dumb. He's going to compliment me and now it's a backhanded slap. No, that's not the purpose of this video. The purpose of this video is to point out maybe an error in thinking, because in living on this earth, we can get a lot of things right, but we can get to a point in our thinking where certain critical things in our thinking, if we don't get them corrected, will lead us down the wrong road. But anyway, there was an 8-hour chat that I had the privilege of being a part of, and I think we spent well over an hour, me and BGS, talking about Christianity and how the Bible comes up short in addressing all of the things that BGS wanted to be about. And I'm saying, well, can you tell me how the Bible is coming up short? And so he gave a clarification that to me I really respected, but I wanted to get back to some of the earlier things that he spoke about. Now, the point that was really clear in my understanding and his as well is that in reading this book called the Bible and going out and living life and investigating things, you're going to have to do more than just read that Bible. You got to study other books. You got to study other perspectives. And then you have to see how these different perspectives comport with our experience in reality. Now, I totally agreed with him on that particular point, but in our discussion, he says that for me to be a Christian is the same as what Buddha taught. It's the same as what the Egyptians taught. It's the same thing. And it's like, all around the world, we're going to experience this thing called truth. And they are all expressions of the same thing. Now, if they were all expressions of the same thing, there would be no distinctives between what Buddha said as well as what Jesus taught in the New Testament and what Jesus believed in the Old Testament. Because there was no New Testament for Jesus to refer to in his sojourn on this earth, in being the Messiah and doing what was prophesied that he would do. And I don't see Buddha pointing to Jesus as being somebody that his followers could look forward to for salvation. I don't see in the Hindu pantheon even the story of creation that Jesus believed in having any resemblance to what was taught in the Hindu pantheon of things. Now, he did say in the Egyptian story of creation that there was a similarity to what was taught in Genesis, in the first book of the Bible. And my thing is, I would say that to say that just because in one aspect there's a similarity, that they're all the same, to me is the same mistake the evolutionist makes when he looks at a man and then he looks at a monkey. He sees a monkey with a body, with legs, shoulders, arms, and even a face that somewhat resembles the face of people. But the one distinctive that he's not looking at is that this monkey is a monkey. He's got hair and a lot of it in places where typically human beings don't have hair. If you look at the monkey's face, you're going to see the monkey has hair where we don't. And he's got bald spots where we have hair. I mean, and a lot of it. So are these our ancestors, or are these distinct animals from human beings? Are they, and my thing is, I'm just kind of really trying to understand that Egyptian, the Egyptian religion as described in the hieroglyphics, as well as what was passed down from generation to generation, clearly is not what was taught by the Hebrews. In fact, there's passages in the Bible that actually tell the believer of Yahweh to have nothing to do with Egypt and their ways. Now, Moses, by supernatural provision of God, was raised in Pharaoh's house. So somebody would say, well, how is it that God, on one hand, would tell us to not have anything to do with Egypt and their ways, would allow one of his own children to be raised in Pharaoh's house? Well, I'm glad you asked, because this little boy was going to ultimately be the thing that actually destroyed and dismantled every god in the Egyptian pantheon to the glory of Yahweh. So I'm pretty sure when Moses got in touch with God, and the Bible actually talks about how God got in touch with him, but the Bible's pretty straightforward, cuts to the chase. But I'm willing to kind of take a little liberty to say that I'm pretty sure that in the strategy halls of heaven, as well as Moses talking to God about his stratagems in terms of what is going to happen with Pharaoh and how God is going to break Pharaoh down and bring him to nothing, was that Moses ultimately was able to see clearly the reason why God, in all of his wisdom, would allow him for so many years to be submersed and immersed in the culture, and not just submersed and immersed in the culture as a citizen or a peasant, but for him to be raised in Pharaoh's house, to where there would be nothing withheld from him in his understanding the deeper meanings behind being an Egyptian. And so it would be real easy for when God started talking to Moses about the destruction of these gods and the plagues that are going to follow. I'm pretty sure Moses was like, I see why you're doing this, God. So it's not a inconsistency. It's more of an understanding of strategies, because even in America, we have agents that are natives of the countries of some of our enemies, and they're willing to be traitors to their own countrymen for either monetary gain, or maybe because they don't believe in the philosophy of the government. I don't know. For whatever motivation that caused somebody to be a traitor to their country, it is what it is. Whatever motivates them, that is. But we have people that have infiltrated other nations, and it was to the detriment. And the thing was, these people had to be well versed in the culture. They had to be well versed in the different dialects, and they had to speak it so fluently as to, if they weren't native speakers, if they weren't native countrymen of that particular nation, they would be a good counterfeit. They would be a convincing counterfeit to where nobody would question their pedigree in terms of where they came from and, their presence in this country. So my thing is, I'm making this video to just kind of begin to discuss that, one, they're not the same. They're not the same. And I'm going to further delineate these things out in future videos. So I'm going to also be going to BGS's next 8 hour session where I'm going to actually, be a lot more prepared to lay down these distinctives between the God of Yahweh and the Egyptian gods, because he really started riding on the Egyptians. And to me, the Egyptians are the ones that nobody really speaks plainly about what they truly believed in, but they will highlight some similarities from time to time. But they're not going to highlight what they actually believe, because as soon as you highlight that, that just doesn't comport with reality. And people recognize a myth for what it is. A myth is a story that somebody told a long time ago that was supposed to be an explanation of how things truly are. And this is going to be hopefully a consistent expression that can go on for future generations. But it's not. That's why they call it a myth. So too, I'm going to declare now in advance that evolution is a myth, in that monkeys become men, and we evolved from this one organism, and we had all of this specialization come out of these developments in mutations, because that's basically the theory that's being promoted, and it's only being supported by the changes in highly specialized and developed organisms, which to me is not, it's not scientifically supportable. It's just not. So with that, I depart. I really hope every video that I make will get people to think, and to think clearly. And once you're able to do that, God will bless you. So